Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Carla and I make videos about how I show up for myself in hopes of inspiring you to do the same. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 4 things that I've learned over the last 4 years of my personal development journey. If you've never seen me before, I'll leave a link up here to my story and how I lost 183 pounds and how I've overhauled my mental health. But in this video specifically, I'm going to chat to you about a couple of things that I've learned over the last 4 years. It is my mental health journey that began in July 2019 that triggered my 183 pound weight loss, which I began in January 2020. So there was 6 months in between the two. So this mental health journey and this personal development journey, it is really well-rounded, but it is the thing that has changed my entire life. Absolutely, completely and utterly changed my entire life. And while some of these concepts aren't new, and you might have heard them before, and I might have heard them prior to this, but it's things that have landed with me in the last 4 years and that I embody. And this is by absolutely no means an exhaustive list. There is so much more that it was actually really hard to narrow it down to 4 things. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, I'd just like to say as well, this is not necessarily weight loss category. While some of these things could be applied to weight loss, they're also applicable to every area of life. The first thing that I've learned is what you tell yourself becomes your reality. So if you've seen my videos before about negative self-talk, life-limiting beliefs, I lived consistently with this negative narrator in my head who was constantly telling me how bad I was, how awful I was, how worthless I was, that I had no value. And this was something that was so consistent. And having that negative narrator translated then into my life because I was so shamed and so bogged down in that I needed to escape with food and use that as my coping mechanism. The most readily available drug is food, and I use that as my coping mechanism in order to numb out of those feelings. What we tell ourselves becomes our reality. Take, for example, if you're telling yourself that you're never going to get another job, or you're never going to get that promotion. Repeatedly telling yourself that is hindering your ability to do so because you're sending out this vibe, whether it's divine intervention, whatever it might be, you're sending out this signal to the world. And we are basically animals. And if we're sending out the signal to the world, to other animals, they're picking up on that. They're being like, well, Jess doesn't really believe in herself. So, she's not fit for that promotion. Whereas it's almost like you're in your self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're telling yourself that you're never going to lose weight, most likely you're never going to lose weight. But if you're telling yourself in a similar vein, when you turn it around and you make it positive, what you tell yourself in a positive vein can also become your reality. So when I stopped telling myself that I couldn't lose weight and I just said, okay, I'll try, and then try said I will, and then I will went to I did. It's the language that we're using to communicate to ourselves what we are worth and what our abilities are. I used to live by a script. My whole life I lived by multiple scripts of things that people had told me, things I assumed about myself, cues that I had come to a conclusion because of XYZ had said this and therefore that must translate to this for me. I lived by saying, I don't like exercise. I hated exercise. I hate walking. So I was telling myself this constantly. I hate walking. I now love walking. I used to tell myself that I'm not outdoorsy. I actually love being outdoors. When we stop telling ourselves that, we actually have the ability to change and reframe that script and rewrite it and give ourselves the opportunity and allow ourselves to want to change that script for ourselves, and therefore ultimately want to change how we feel about ourselves. And by doing that shift, it changed everything for me. So instead of something being closed off and restrictive, you're giving yourself the opportunity to open up. And when you begin to open up, things start to come in. They have the ability to come in. Whereas when you are incredibly negative and you're cutting things off, there's nothing, the ability to come in and help you, or your vision to open up to new opportunities is reduced. The second thing that I've learned over the last 4 years is that you will never stop learning about yourself. And it's quite good that you never want to stop learning about yourself. 4 years ago, I didn't know who I was. I had a realization that I actually had no idea who I was, and I knew nothing about me. I knew nothing about what I liked, what I wanted, who I wanted to be, what type of person I wanted to be, what type of person I was. And through some self-reflection and self-work and getting to know myself and to understand my likes and dislikes, I have begun to learn. But I will never be finished learning about myself. And I don't ever want to be finished learning about myself, because I will continue to evolve. I will continue to grow and to mature and to learn new things and be in new situations that will test me and that will change me and will teach me about myself. The biggest tools that have helped me to learn about myself are therapy and journaling. If you have been here for a while, you know that I go on and off with therapy every so often. I'm currently still in a therapeutic cycle at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it. And I also journal. So most mornings I will do my morning pages. I have some kind of gratitude journal practice as well. Even with this therapist, I think this is like my 4th cycle where I've come back, and this is a long one. So my first one was a long period of time. Then I had like 2 smaller, like check-ins. I'm back in this one, and I've been back in since January. So it's July now. So 7 months that I've been going back, and it's nearly as long. It was a year the first time. So I'm back in a long cycle. I also did therapy 15 years ago, 13 years ago, something, a long time ago, for binge eating disorder, and I did relationship therapy. I have done large bouts of therapy multiple times now. And each time a layer gets peeled back and we address the rawness, that raw level that's come up, and we work through that. And then it might seem like for a while that there's no more layers, that's it, that we've got to the core, got to the crux. And then of course something else will happen and it will trigger. I'll put myself into a situation, I'll be in a situation, and I'll realize that it's brought up, it's triggered something in me that I have not dealt with in the past. And then I'll need to go back to therapy, or maybe sometimes not go back to therapy. I didn't always have to do that. As another layer comes out, I'll go, okay, no, I can deal with this myself. And things will continue to come up as soon as it's almost like a volcano, as soon as things come up and erupt over, and then they're done and dissipate and everything's nice and calm, it gives space for the next thing to come up. And sometimes it will be painful and sometimes it won't. It doesn't always have to be painful. I think even for this, like in my first long therapeutic journey, I think out of the 50 something sessions I had, I think I cried 50 of them. In this 7 months that I've been going to my therapist again, I've only cried once. So it doesn't always have to be this incredibly rooted, painful, emotional experience, but you will never stop learning about yourself. And there is so much more to you. We're such multifaceted and fascinating people. The third thing that I learned in the last 4 years is that vulnerability is one of the most beautiful things ever, that it is not weak, and that there is strength in allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and the universe or whatever it is rewards you for that vulnerability. I was forever a barriers up. People would call me, like, say I had resting bitch face, or that I was the tough girl. I had my barriers up my whole life. I never allowed myself to be vulnerable. I never allowed myself to be in a state of vulnerability, because I saw vulnerability as a weakness. Also, funnily enough, I saw my femininity as a weakness, which I think comes hand in hand. And now I've learned that femininity and vulnerability there's nothing weak about it. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable is an incredibly scary position to put yourself in. But allowing yourself to be vulnerable is where the beauty happens. And it's about stepping outside your comfort zone and allowing yourself to go, okay, I don't know everything, but that's okay. It's okay, because I'm human, and having that human experience and that human perspective. It's such a beautiful state. I would never have shared previously with many people in my life. I would never have allowed people in enough to share. And now I've made a career out of it. And I've connected with some of the world's most amazing people that would never have had the opportunity to meet if it hadn't been for that. I've allowed myself to be vulnerable, to put myself into situations which will challenge me, but will also bring me growth and help me to evolve as a person. Take, for example, my dance class. That is something that I felt so vulnerable because it's a new body for me to go and dance in this new body in a style that I'd never done before, with women who were, as I would seen previously, competition, or, I would have seen as some they're skinny and blah, blah, blah. And to put myself into that situation and allow myself to be vulnerable enough to go, okay, I'm going to go and learn this and try this. It has been one of the best experiences I've had. My confidence in myself has grown so much, and it's quite, I don't know whether it's ironic or it's like coincidental, or no, not coincidental. It's kind of just a nice thing to see that by being vulnerable, I've actually grown in my confidence. By allowing myself to admit that I don't know everything, I've learned so much more. I used to always have to think that I had all the answers, and now I have no problem saying, I don't know, and learning and being vulnerable enough and being open enough with people to learn and to meet new people and to be vulnerable and to share with new people and to have that human experience of connecting with others from a very deeply personal place, not from a barriers up place. Not needing to have to save face all the time and to allow yourself to get things wrong. My gosh, to allow myself to get things wrong is one of the biggest and most challenging things that I've had to overcome and had to do. But this has really been allowing myself to do that, allowing myself to be vulnerable enough to try something and get it wrong, and realize that it's not the end of the world and that I'm not going to die and nobody's going to die and actually it's going to be okay. It makes life a lot easier. Being vulnerable has helped me in every situation and every connection in my life. With my friends, I've created deeper connections. I've created new friends, new people. So many new people have come into my life that I cannot believe how lucky I am that I have them in my life, because they're the most wonderful people. And that's because I have been vulnerable enough. There was a very, very long period of time where I had no new friends, or very few friends in general, which is not an issue either. Like, I think that the quality of friends is much more important than the quantity. But to meet and connect with some of the most amazing people that I have met over the last 4 years, and it's purely because of my vulnerability and the connection and my openness and willingness to try and connect with new people. It's also affected my relationship in the most wonderful way, because I allow my partner in more, into my soul, into me, into who I really am, and get to know me as I'm getting to know myself. And to be vulnerable and not need to save face. It's helped me with my career. As I said, it's completely changed my career. I used to think, I remember in my previous career, I would always have to have all the answers. And because if I didn't have the answers, then, I won't be seen as that I'm good enough for this job. Which in reality, actually, by being vulnerable enough and being open enough and being willing to say, okay, no, I actually don't know what I'm doing here, is actually really beneficial, because you'll be surprised who will help you and who will be willing to give you help when you are vulnerable and open and honest with people. And the fourth and final thing, which I think is probably the most impactful and has changed a lot for me, is that the secret to success in any field is not dumb luck. It's not motivation. The secret to success is consistency, is doing the actions that you need to do repeatedly and putting the slog in. Now, of course, there's people born with silver spoons in their mouth and they get things handed to them on a platter, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking in the general Joe, soap, you and me, regular type of people, because that's all I am. I live in my 3-bed terraced house in North Dublin. I'm just a normal person. I have issues, I have flaws. I am a completely flawed, normal bag of walking hormones and skin and bone. That's what I am. As most of us are, well, we're all walking bags of skin and bone and hormones. You don't all live in North Dublin. But to give you that, I'm just a normal person. but I did the things that I needed to do on a repeated basis in order to get me where I was, whether it was through my career, by consistently posting, by consistently being vulnerable, by consistently being open, by consistently putting in the work, by consistently developing content. I got there. With weight loss, it was consistently going for a walk every single day, consistently tracking my calories, consistently ensuring that I got enough water, consistently getting enough sleep, consistently weighing in, consistently watching the Body Slim seminar, consistently going to therapy to work on my mental health issues. It's about consistency. The secret to any success, unfortunately, is not sexy. It's just what I've learned is that, like, if I want to do something, I actually have the power to do it. And a lot of people are looking for motivation. Specifically with weight loss, motivation comes from results. It doesn't always spark from the middle of nowhere. Motivation can be from desperation, it can be from inspiration, but typically motivation will actually come from the results. So you will end up motivating yourself when you start doing something and taking action, and then you get the results. Take weight loss, for example. You don't have to be motivated to lose weight. You have to be consistent. And when you're consistent, in turn, you'll get results. And then the results will spark more motivation. And it will just be a nice little cycle. And I just want to finish off with one little bonus thing that I've learned as well that I wanted to include. Nobody's got it all figured out. You might look at me and think that I've got it figured out. You might look at your friend and think she's got it all figured out. You might look at your mom and think that they've got it figured out. Nobody's got a clue. The secret is that nobody's got a freaking clue. We're all as useless and as wonderful and as flawed and, crap as each other. Guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for being a part of my massive journey over the last 4 years. If you have made it to the end of this video, please leave me 4 stars and let me know a lesson that you've learned over the last 4 years. Anything that you have that's triggered something in you that you're like, oh, that's really interesting. Anything to do with personal development or something that makes you go, oh, okay, that's a different way of doing things. As I said, I love you and leave you. Please don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notifications so you never miss a video from me. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram and on TikTok as well. And I will chat to you all very soon. Bye, guys. Oh, and don't forget to share for yourself.